There's a massive debate going on X right now that you may or may not have heard of, but it's happening between Vivek Ramaswamy, Elon Musk, and what we're going to call the MAGA tech bros, alongside, or I guess those people are beefing with the more conservative sect of MAGA world about immigration. And I'm going to break down both of these arguments, including a third one that I don't think is getting enough play in the debate sphere right now. So welcome back to Underreported Stories. I'm Chrissy Clark, and on the show we cover the news that CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News fail to report on or just don't report on enough. And before we get into the show, please make sure to like, subscribe, and comment along throughout the show. Okay, so obviously I'm not in my regular setup. I'm at my in-laws' house in Michigan, so audio looks funky. Everything looks a little funky, but stick with me because we still have great content, and I know that's what you're here for. Okay, so let's start with the tweet that started it all. Vivek Ramaswamy, who again, if you don't know who he is, right now he is currently set to run Trump's Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, alongside Elon Musk. And Vivek had this tweet that kind of sparked this whole debate. Vivek's tweet reads, "The reason top tech companies often hire foreign-born and first-generation engineers over Native Americans, not Native Americans as we know it, like Native people who are Americans nowadays as we know them, isn't because of an innate American IQ deficit. We're not stupid people. A key part of it comes down to the C word, culture." Good thing he said culture, not something else. My mind goes to the worst places. It says, "Tough questions demand tough answers, and if we're really serious about fixing the problem, we have to confront the truth. Our American culture has venerated mediocrity over excellence for way too long, at least since the 90s and likely longer. That doesn't start in college, it starts young." Okay, so I want to stop here because I think the debate started because I think a lot of people were offended by this, that our American culture is actually just mediocrity. Where I kind of found it to be interesting that people were offended by this is that this has kind of been what MAGA ran on. It's kind of what conservatives have run on for a really long time, is that we need to be pushing people harder. You constantly hear from older conservatives that my generation, Gen Z, is incredibly lazy and that we have a laziness epidemic that is coursed through the millennial generation and Gen Z. So for this to be offensive to people, I actually found this quite shocking. This was something that we all agreed on up until 5 seconds ago. And because it seems like we all agreed on something, and then somebody who is American but looks Indian said it, I think that's kind of where people started, claws started coming out and accusations of racism against Vivek started coming out, etc. But that's neither here nor there. The comments continue, or the tweet continues. "A culture that celebrates the prom queen or king over the math Olympiad champ or the jock over the valedictorian will not produce the best engineers." That's fair, but we also don't need a country full of engineers, might I opine. There are different strokes for different folks, and I don't think I would have been a good engineer, but that doesn't mean that my profession or what I've done in journalism should be delineated or made to feel less than. Although I can also admit, because I have a brain, that obviously what an engineer does is more impressive than yapping on the internet. Anyway, the tweet goes on to say, "A culture that venerates from Corey from Boy Meets World, or Zach and Slater over Screech and Saved by the Bell, or Stefan over Steve Urkel in Family Matters will not produce the best engineers." Again, this goes on and on and on. You have to note that Vivek is talking about engineers the whole time. And I guess that never really struck me when I was thinking about this through the whole macro lens, but he's really just talking about engineers. And this is fair from the lens of talking about engineers. He goes on to say, "Fact, I know multiple set of immigrant parents in the 90s who actively limited how much their kids would watch those TV shows precisely because they promoted mediocrity, and their kids went on to become wildly successful STEM graduates." Again, harping on this idea that he is not talking about Americans writ large. He's talking about wanting more Americans to perhaps get more into the STEM fields, which I just don't think he's wrong in saying American excellence is in a lot of things, but is it globally for math and science? The statistics show otherwise. He goes on to say a little bit more about movies like Whiplash, fewer reruns of Friends, more math tutoring, fewer sleepovers. I'm against that. We need sleepovers. More weekend science competitions, fewer Saturday morning cartoons, more books, less TV, more creating, less chillin', more extracurriculars, less hanging out at the mall. Oh, goodness. I mean, I could go into a whole opinion on this, but we need a balance. We probably do need more of these things and less of what Vivek is saying, but we can't have all of us be math nerds who don't have sleepovers and friends. That's never going to work in a society. You need a balance. But I see the point that if the point is to create more engineers, more STEM-oriented people, then yes, this would be the result, and this is what we would need in culture. Continuing on, most normal American parents look skeptically at, quote, those kinds of parents. More normal American kids view such, quote, those kinds of kids with scorn. If you grow up aspiring to normalcy, normalcy is what you will achieve. Again, I don't find this to be problematic quite yet. It says, now close your eyes and visualize which families you knew in the 90s or even now who raise their kids according to one model versus the other. Be brutally honest. Normalcy doesn't cut it in a hyper-competitive global market for technical talent. And if we pretend like it does, we'll have our asses handed to us by China. This can be our Sputnik moment. We've awakened from slumber before and we can do it again. Trump's election hopefully marks the beginning of a new golden era in America, but only if our culture fully wakes up. A culture that once again prioritizes achievement over normalcy, excellence over mediocrity, nerdiness over conformity, hard work over laziness. That's the work we have cut out for us rather than wallowing in victimhood and just wishing for legislating alternative hiring practices into existence. I'm confident we can do it. Now I want you to notice that in the 5 minutes it took for us to go through this, not once did Vivek talk about immigration at all. Yet somehow this tweet is exactly what sparked a debate over immigration. And I'm going to read some of the top comments here as well from Cernovich. It reads, the Woodstock generation managed to build out aerospace. The one before went to the moon. America was doing great. Underlying your post is that we were all living in squalor until being rescued by H1Bs, which are, I'll get into the definition of that, but they're immigrants that are top talent brought over into America. Then why did everyone want to come here? Vivek said, yeah, this is the version of America I want. I want the version of America where we didn't need H1B visas, like we just had the best talent in America. Cat Turd said, do I really need to start listing American inventors and what the world wouldn't have without us? Again, like Vivek was not, maybe I didn't see it this way. No, I know I didn't see it this way. I read that as like, I thought we were all on board with this. I really thought that we would be in agreement on this. Like, yes, everyone has been telling my generation and the millennials that we're a bunch of lazy fucks, and now all of a sudden Vivek lays it out and says, yeah, we're lazy fucks, we should get it together and beat China, and he's like the most evil human being in the world. That's how I initially read it. Tommy Laren had a really great tweet here. She said, agree and disagree, and nothing wrong with being a jock or a prom queen. We don't need to be a nation full of socially awkward nerds either. It takes all kinds. 100%, I was making that argument before. You know, that's cool. She said, what we could use more of is parenting, work ethic, tenacity, and ambition. We don't just need more engineers or brainiacs. We need people who know how to build and create things with their hands. Absolutely. I think she's spot on here. But Vivek's point was not, we need more YouTube creators, right? Like his point was, we do need more engineers, we do need more people, and if you ask young people what they aspire to do, they aspire to do something like this. Again, I can't shit on it. I do this for a living, and it actually wasn't my goal at all, but somehow I've ended up here. But nonetheless, I get what he's saying. We need more people in STEM roles as opposed to gender studies roles. I don't think that that was controversial at all. But from that post that we just read, the debate began over the necessity of not only limiting, but stopping legal immigration. And how we got from that to that, it is quite interesting. I will give you that. But illegal immigration was a very key point of the Trump campaign, and I get that. But curbing legal immigration is kind of where MAGA is splintered right now. So I'm going to explain to you now what H1B visas are, because we're going to talk about them a lot. So these are specific visas that allow U.S. companies to employ foreign workers in specialty fields. So it is mostly used by tech companies to bring in foreign talent from India, if we're being blunt. However, it's used by a multitude of people for a multitude of different reasons. This is supposed to be, they're supposed to be, again, I caveat that, supposed to be used for people bringing in engineers, someone with a bachelor's degree, tech entrepreneurs with deep knowledge of the industry. That's how it's supposed to be used. And the US has a cap actually on H1B visas, unlike our partners up in Canada, or our enemies up in Canada, or our 51st state up in Canada, whatever you want to call it. We actually have a cap on H1B visas, unlike other countries. We allow 65,000 visas to be used each year for H1B visas, and we have an additional 20,000 visas set aside for people who come to America, go to school here, achieve a master's degree or higher, and want to stay here. So in total, we have about 85,000 H1B visas that we give out each year. Now, I have to be upfront with you guys, not necessarily a bias, I just like to be upfront with you guys. My family actually came to the US on an H1B visa. My dad graduated from college with a bachelor's in economics in Canada and got a tech job in California back in 2001 working for Oracle. So as my friend Sydney so lovingly says, we are snow Mexicans, we're Canadians, and we moved here when I was 5. So all I know in my life is being American. I'm a very proud American. I have no allegiance to Canada, but I'm also obviously very thankful for a program that allowed me to come here and allowed my dad to be recruited as top talent from Canada, right? However, I just wanted to let you know that I can still put my journalist cap on and give you both sides of the debate because, that's what I did. So to break down the opposing argument against Vivek's tweet or against these H1B visa policies that are currently in place, I think it's a 3-pronged debate on why we need to get rid of H1B visas. So first, the federal government is doling out these H1B visas to people who do not qualify for them. So we have people who are getting these H1B visas, they're coming to the US to be interns. And I read you the whole description of what an H1B visa holder is supposed to be. They're supposed to look a little bit more like my dad, for instance. They didn't. They're bringing in interns, they're bringing in people who are not top talent. This is supposed to be about recruiting top talent once they're already top or near top talent, not taking talent that exists and building them up. That's not the point of the program, right? You can make an argument for and against that. I'm just saying that's not the point of the program. And I've actually heard on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, I have heard mumblings that, maybe we shouldn't even be taking top talent. Other countries should be building themselves up so we don't have this refugee crisis and all these people wanting to come to America. We should want other countries to be successful on their own and have their own top talent. I'll let you decide. Please let me know how you feel about that in the comments. The second argument against these H1B visas is that some companies, primarily these tech companies, are exploiting foreign workers with these visas and then undercutting the job market for Americans. So if, for instance, you have a editing role, right? Let's say I'm hiring an editor right now. If an American editor expects to make $80,000 for editing my videos a year, right? This is hypothetical. I could hypothetically import someone via an H1B visa and offer them $60,000 and undercut the market price of what it would actually cost because someone will come to the country, work longer hours, and work for less because it's just a different culture, and that's going to end up leaving high-achieving Americans out of the job market, which is unfair. Our companies should be helping Americans get jobs, not prioritizing foreign workers to undercut the value of the American dollar, right? So that's the second argument, which actually pretty much leads me to my third argument, not my argument, but the argument I've been hearing, right? Which is that these jobs should be going to Americans, right? We shouldn't need H1B visa holders. We have a top education system in the world. We should be encouraging that education system to get even better. We shouldn't be importing people when there are Americans who are capable and willing to do the job. I will caveat that, though, that when the H1B program is properly utilized and not abused, right, a company technically does have to prove that an H1B visa holder is better at that role, more qualified for that role than an existing American talent to the government. But again, that is when the program is properly being used. There are many ways to skirt that program. Okay, Now you have both sides, right? You have Vivek's side, you have more of the conservative MAGA side. Please let me know where you fall in the comments. But there's actually a third take. One that I think is just worth diving into more than either of these kind of opposing arguments. And that's that this debate in and of itself, which I'd heard of very vaguely, but as somebody, again, that's steeped in conservative policy, this was really, immigration has always been more about getting rid of illegal immigrants as opposed to legal immigrants. But regardless, the third take is that this entire debate is actually a coordinated division by leftists or by opponents of conservatives and Trump to separate MAGA world from brilliant minds like Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. I will caveat that again, though. Trump's take is actually very similar to Elon. So while it appears a lot of MAGA world is on the right side of getting rid of H1B visa holders and having, getting these jobs more to Americans, you'll also hear that a lot from J.D. Vance. Trump is actually more aligned with Vivek and Elon. He said he's in favor of H1B visas, but he's in favor of reforming the program as well so that it cannot be used to subvert American talent, but pull top talent to America. But there's a tweet from the Hodge twins that I think really perfectly encapsulates where the majority of Americans stand on this issue. It reads, "Telling y'all right now, all the division seems coordinated. The deep state wants MAGA divided. They don't want Trump and Elon to be aligned." I have been saying this, if you follow me on social media, I've been saying that I think the media is in a coordinated effort right now to consistently call Elon Musk the most powerful man in politics in hopes of that getting to Trump's ego, and then they're causing a, kind of a fissure between Trump and Elon. So again, I'm very partial to that idea. It goes on to say, everybody agrees the visa system for immigrant workers is broke and needs to be fixed. 100%. Elite immigrants should be able to come to the US and work in jobs that Americans can't do. Again, I think that's where most people fall. If you don't have elite skills, then you can't come here on a work visa and take a job that an American can do. Focus on the big stuff and don't fall for the division. Deport all illegals, cut government spending, and make America great again. Again, I think that that's just what the majority of Americans think. Yes, obviously I think that this is a real debate. I don't think that the entire thing is necessarily a psyop that's happening, but it's a small minority of people who feel strongly about getting rid of legal immigration, and that's just what it is. It's a small minority, right? But before I wrap this up, I actually do want to take this issue from a more macro perspective. This is obviously a policy debate and a little bit of a culture debate too, you could argue. But these debates do have impacts on the voters, psyop or not, right? And this isn't me saying don't have the debates, don't have problems within conservatism or take issue. I think it's good. I think that means that we're thinking for ourselves, but just understand that it took us, I don't even know, what are we at, like 15 plus minutes to explain the ins and outs of this debate. And general population or like low propensity voters, they don't have the time, nor honestly do they care about this. All they see is a push by some to halt legal immigration, which I could be wrong about this. Maybe it'll change over the years, but I don't think that's a winning issue for anybody. I honestly don't. I feel like I need to caveat this again, like 80 times for people, but I'm talking about messaging here, not policy, right? Policy or messaging wise, this is not a winning message, right? A winning message is sticking with the Tom Homan version of things, which is deport the illegal immigrants. They're here illegally. And that to me is just like a very common sense issue, and whoever is common sense is probably going to win. Deporting 3 million illegal immigrants is way more important, and having those 3 million illegal immigrants here is way more problematic than 85,000 H1B visa holders. That's just it. I think that's just truthful. But as always, I learn a lot from hearing your opinions in the comments. So please drop a comment on where you fall on this. Are you more on Vivek's side? Are you more on MAGA conservative side? Are you in the belief that this is all just a psyop and I'm just a plant from China? I'm kidding. Anyway, if you're a real one and you made it to the end of this show, will you drop the 100% emoji so I know who's really part of this community? Thanks, friends. Enjoy the rest of your winter break, and I'll see you back here next week. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked what you heard, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment about how beautiful, stunning, and funny I am. And if you want more content based in logic, be sure to click over here for more videos and clips of my show. If you have the means to financially support the show, consider purchasing from my merch line, Based Apparel, linked right below. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you back here next time. Bye, friends.